Basic concepts of the stability and oscillators. After the negative feedback, I'm going to discuss the effect of positive feedback, but unlike the negative feedback, positive feedback has a very limited use, and mainly we prefer to use the positive feedback in designing the oscillator circuits. So therefore, we first have to understand the origin of the oscillations, and that understanding comes to the understanding of the stability conditions. So that is why I have dedicated this lecture to make you understand the stability and oscillators. The discussion will start by demonstrating the stable, unstable, and marginally stable response. Because the origin of oscillation is basically inherited within the understanding of this unstable and marginally stable response. And the next one I will discuss the single pole response, and in my next lecture I will discuss the double pole response, because the origin of the oscillation starts with the understanding of the double pole response and the higher order pole response. But it will be better to understand the double pole response, but before that the single pole response. And we will see that poles is the general name of the cutoff frequencies, nothing else. So the single pole response means the system which has a single cutoff frequency. Double pole response means which has the system which has the two cutoff frequencies. So in this particular lecture I will discuss the system having only single cutoff frequencies. So that is why single pole response will be discussed over here. So first is a stable response. The stable response looks like as shown in this diagram. Here, the output of your system may oscillate, but whether it oscillates or doesn't oscillate, it should reach a particular steady state after a while. And that means that your output should converge at a particular point. So that level, that converging level, either maybe 0 or maybe 1 or may other values. That depend upon the condition of or the supplies of the system. But the response must converge to a particular steady state. Mathematically, the expression for the stable response can be written as shown over here. So sine omega naught t, where this omega naught represents this oscillation, the frequency of oscillations that is being shown over here, and e to the power minus at is the factor with which it gets decreased. This oscillation gets decreased with the factor e to the power minus 1. So whenever your response of the or your device produces a response like this, your device is a stable one. However, there may be a little bit oscillation or ripple in a steady state, but ultimately your device is a stable one. So there are lots of strategies we can use to reduce these oscillations if you do not want to make this oscillation to appear for your output. So we can use different mechanism. But for this particular lecture where I'm going to discuss the origin of oscillation, we actually desire such kind of response. So we need to increase this response so that this oscillation will be sustained with equal mean magnitude at each and every cycle, and it will not decrease like this one, like the marginally stable response. So in this marginally stable response, we basically want or in case of oscillator, what we want to design, we basically want to design a marginally stable response where the output will not decrease, it basically will oscillate between its maximum available positive supply and the negative supply. On the other hand, the unstable response which diverges from a particular steady state. So due to any kind of noise or any oscillation if produced in the system, and if your system is unstable, then your system get diverged as shown in this diagram, and this divergence factor also depends upon some of the constant a, and it diverges exponentially also due to the presence of e to the power plus 80 factor. So for larger a, for a stable response, your decrement will be faster, and for smaller a, decrement will be smaller. In a similar way, for larger a, the diverge, your output response or the system response will diverge much faster rate, and for smaller a, the divergence will take place in a smaller rate. But whatever is that, if a is not equals to 0 or a not equals to less than equals to 0, that means this one, like the stable response or like this marginally stable response, your output will diverge and your system will become the unstable, and the system will be called the unstable system, and the response is unstable response. In case of frequency response that I have discussed for the bipolar junction transistor, you have seen that the frequency response of the BJT looks like this one, where although in case of bipolar junction transistor you also have noticed some lower cutoff frequency, but I told that for direct coupled amplifier we should not have any lower cutoff frequency, and in this case or in general, where when I'm going to discuss the any kind of amplifier, we do prefer not to have any lower cutoff frequency, because we generally prefer to have the direct coupled amplifiers. So as I'll discuss in the case of differential amplifier, you will see how we can design the direct coupled amplifier to make this lower cutoff frequency 0. So therefore, right now I'm considering our system is made of the direct coupled amplifier. So that is why lower cutoff frequency is 0, and it has started right from this 0 frequency. So therefore, the frequency response should look like this one. It should look like a low pass filter. So the higher cutoff frequency only will appear. And for the time being, I'm considering the higher cutoff frequency that the system has is due to only a single factor. So that is why the only one higher cutoff frequency I'm considering. So this is the frequency response, and this frequency response decreases monotonically and smoothly. The variation is smooth due to the presence of single higher cutoff frequency. Now this is the open loop gain of the system. You can relate it with the forward current gain HFE of the bipolar junction transistor, and due to the frequency dependency of the HFE, I have shown you that there exists a cutoff frequency F beta, and in this case I'm considering any arbitrary amplifier, and that amplifier has a general um, open loop response. Open loop gain is A, and that open loop gain also depends upon the frequency, and due to the frequency dependency of the open loop gain, we are having the bandwidth of the particular device. So if that open loop gain uh, does not depend on the frequency, we have an infinite bandwidth. But we know that any kind of open loop gain depends upon the frequency, and here I'm considering the open loop gain is depending upon the frequency, where the frequency response has only one cutoff frequency FH. And since this response looks like a low pass filter, the expression for the open loop gain will can be written as the expression of the low pass filter, as I have use such kind of expression in defining a low pass filter response. You should remember that thing. So this A naught is the midband gain, means starting from the zero frequency to within this bandwidth. So starting from zero frequency to FH, the A naught I'm going to consider for the midband gain. Although after certain point it gets decreased, so you can consider this A naught is equals to 1 around this range. So it is the midband gain, the middle of this band. So this is the bandwidth, and within the middle this is the A naught, so it is equals to 1. So the with a single cutoff frequency we have such kind of expression of the open loop gain. Now I'm just doing a little rearrangement. I'm just multiplying these 2 pi at the numerator and denominator, and finally I'm writing in terms of this omega. So it is omega and omega h, and j omega I'm writing as s, and finally I'm writing this AF in terms of AS, and which has this expression A naught divided by 1 plus S divided by omega h. Here omega h is called the pole. So from this discussion you have understood that what is omega h. Omega h is nothing but the cutoff frequency of this frequency response, and it has a general terminology that is called pole. So omega h is called pole for any kind of system. So if it has a, since it has a single pole, it will be called a single pole response or single pole transfer function. And if in the next slides I will discuss the double pole response. So there you will see that I will consider the response for the two poles or two cutoff frequencies. This is the expression of open loop gain that I have derived in my previous slide. That gain can be for the voltage or can be equally for the current. So in general, I am considering that gain as y to x, where y represents the output signal and x represents the input signal. So y can be, you can consider either can have voltage or can be a current. Similarly, x can be either a voltage or can be a current. So the expression remains same, but right now the ratio y to x I am defining by hs, and replacing s as j omega that I have done in my last slide, where I have replaced this j omega by s. I am getting the expression, or I am retrieving the expression that I was using in my last slide, that is the expression of this h j omega, which is equals to a naught divided by 1 plus j omega divided by omega h. So here this j omega represents this omega, particularly is a variable we are interested with by varying this frequency, or this is a variable frequency, and omega h is the cutoff frequency. So during the variations of the in the omega, that is in the within this variable, we get this cutoff frequency omega h, at which the this ratio or this gain decreases 1 over root 2. Now in frequency domain, the output response, this is the output, as I told, is simple a multiplication of this h omega times this x omega. Here this h omega or hs, it is called the transfer function. So output is nothing but the product of the transfer function with the input. So it is in frequency domain because all of these three terms are defined in frequencies in the frequency domain. So the time domain response of this one can be written in this way, where this yt is the uh, time domain response of this y omega, h small ht is the time domain response of the transfer function h omega, and xt is the time domain response of the input x omega. Now in frequency domain, where this multiplication between the transfer function and the input signal produces the output signal in frequency domain, but in time domain that multiplication gets converted into the convolution. So what is convolution, I am not going to discuss in this particular course. So uh, I think you have studied this convolution in your circuit theory or in control system theory. So in time domain, the convolution produces the output in time domain, but in frequency domain that convolution gets converted into the product between the transfer function at the input signal, and it produces the output in frequency domain. So this is the frequency and time pair. So this is for output, this is for transfer function, and this is for the input, x for the input, and this is for the transfer function. Now basically this transfer function depends upon your system. This is actually your system response. So h represents how your capital H represents how your system responds in frequencies when you are varying frequency, and small ht, this represents the response of your system with respect to the time. So how you observe the response of your system when you are applying some input and you have connected the output to the CRO. So the output what you can observe from the CRO due to application of some input, so that will be the transfer function of the of your system. But mainly in case of this transfer function when I'm talking about, so this HT basically sometimes it is called the impulse response. So when you are applying some impulse input to the system and you are observing it to within the CRO, so whatever the response you will observe, so that will be the HT or the transfer function in time domain. As I told, this H omega is a single pole transfer function because it contains only a single pole. Now let's see what will be the output in time domain for a system which has a single pole or the single cutoff frequency. Here I am considering the system, I'm considering the input is a sinusoidal type and the input is cos omega naught t, and when you have applied that input to that particular system of single pole, then the output in time domain can be written as I have written over here. You can see from here the amplitude of the input signal was 1. So amplitude means magnitude and phase. So magnitude was 1 and the phase was 0. No additional phase was there. So only omega naught t. But when the output gets produced, so the magnitude that is available or that is associated with the output signal is directly coming from the transfer function itself. That means the response of your system itself. So here you can see the magnitude of the transfer function is following the same frequency uh, with which you have applied your input signal. So if your input signal has the omega naught as the input frequency, so that frequency will appear in the expression of the transfer function of the system. And finally, the magnitude of your transfer function is appearing as the magnitude of the output signal, and the phase of the transfer function will appear the phase additional phase of the output signal. So this is the final output, where phi is obviously minus tan inverse omega naught divided by omega h. Now let's examine the input frequency in a different frequency ranges with respect to this omega h, this cutoff frequency. First of all, I'm considering the input frequency is very less than the cutoff frequency omega h. So in that case, this part will be very less than this one. Then this magnitude part will uh, only take this a naught. So this output yt, which you can get in time domain, will contain this a naught as the magnitude of the output of your output signal, that is following exactly what is the input with phase is 0, because phase is 0 means because this part is very close to 0. So I'm considering the for omega naught very less than omega h, the phase angle is 0. So output is exactly equals to the input, only it has an amplification a naught if a naught is greater than 1, nothing else. But for omega naught is equals to omega h, the output gets decreased by 1 over root 2 in comparison with that output you have obtained for omega naught very less than omega h, and the phase angle that the output signal is acquired, the additional phase angle, that is the minus 45 degree, and it is very clear from this expression. For omega naught very greater than omega h, the output yt is about to decrease to 0, and that we can expect because this part, this denominator part in the expression of this magnitude mod of omega mod of h goes to increase, and that reduces this part. So we may expect this yt uh, should tend to 0 for omega naught very greater than omega h. That means when you have excited the system by an input having the frequency very greater than the cutoff frequency, and the phase angle in that case should approach towards minus 90 degree. In order to make you understand the effect of bandwidth, I have constructed this low pass filter. That low pass filter is made of this resistor R2, which is a variable resistor, and its value can be varied starting from 0 ohm to 100 kilo ohm, and a capacitor which is connected in series with this R2. The capacitor is 16 nanofarad. The input signal I've considered here as the sinusoidal signal of 500 Hz. The amplitude I have taken 10 volt peak. This is the oscilloscope I have connected, the channel A of the oscilloscope I have connected across the capacitor, and since the peak voltage of the input signal is 10 volt, therefore I want to resolve this peak to peak voltage, that is the 20 volt, within two grids. So that is why I have fixed the channel A voltage per division along the vertical direction as 10 volt per division. And since our frequency of the input signal is 500 Hz, so I choose or I set the scale along the x-axis, the time axis, as 2 millisecond per division. Now I will demonstrate to you that what will happen uh, when I will increase this impedance, this resistance, because the increase of resistance means decrease of the cutoff frequency. So this resistor and this capacitor both defines a cutoff frequency for this low pass filter, and as the resistance will be increased, the cutoff frequency will be decreased, and when it will decrease less than the 500 hertz, because the input frequency is 500 hertz, and by increasing the resistance um, uh, more more than certain level, I can decrease the cutoff frequency less than the 500 hertz, and that will decrease um, the output waveform. Let's see. So initially the resistance value is at 0 ohm, and you can see from here, you can see this is the output waveform. You can see starting from, since it is 10 volt per division, so this one is the 10 volt, this one is the 10 volt, so 10 and 10, 20 volt. Peak to peak is 20 volt, because I set the input signal 10 volt for the peak voltage. Now I'm going to vary the resistance. Let's see what will happen. Look at here, as I'm going to vary the resistance, the amplitude gets decreased, because after certain level the cutoff frequency of the circuit falls beyond the 500 hertz. So in that case, 500 hertz actually appears more than the cutoff frequency when the resistance I have increased over here. Now if I decrease this resistance, you can see decrease the resistance will increase the amplitude, because decreasing of this resistance actually increases the cutoff frequency. So the 500 hertz actually well below the cutoff frequency. Once again, look, gets decreased as I am increasing the resistance, which means I'm uh, decreasing the cutoff frequency. Gets increased. And another thing, the phase. This is a starting phase. It's moving somehow. This is a starting phase. Now as I'm increasing, the phase gets shifted. So it can also be observed if this is starting phase. Look, this one is the starting phase, and as I'm increasing, the phase also gets changed, as well as the magnitude gets decreased. Look at that. So this is the effect of the cutoff frequency on the sinusoidal signal, and the same thing I just described in my previous slide. Now the step response of the single pole transfer function. This is the step input that I'm going to apply to our single pole system. The step input means the input will be applied at some time t equals to t naught, but before that time, that means t less than t naught, there was no input to the system. The input will be activated only after t greater than equals to t naught, and the input has a maximum value is equals to 1. Now when such kind of input is applied to a system, you can assume physically that equivalent the application of this input is equivalent to turning on a switch to provide the supply to your system or to your device. So during a long time your device was kept idle, so that long time is basically t less than t naught, and at t equals to t naught you have applied that input which is equals to 1, and basically which means you can assume that you have turned on the device or turned on the switch to apply some supply, and the device get the DC value, steady state value, which is equals to 1. No, you can give any kind of DC value, that 1 can be equal to 2 volt, 5 volt, or whatever the requirement is, and it continues for the entire duration of the operation. That is why it is continuing over here. So switching on a device can be treated as a step response. In a similar way, the step response can also be thought that initially your device is switched on and you have applied a physical step input to the input terminal where the general signal is applied. So in this way also you can apply the physical input. So step response means in both of these type of response you can apply. So when you are applying some step response by turning on a switch, so your output should follow some steady state. That means not necessarily that your output will be equals to 1, but it should stay at some steady state when you are applying the DC bias to a particular circuit. That steady state can be equals to the input magnitude or will be equals to the 0, that depending upon the requirement or the device how it has designed. Now, in this case, I'm considering that the unit step response is applied at some time t naught. So the output, the single pole response will produce is of this form. That is 1 minus e to the power minus omega h t. This factor or this response will be available as an output only after the input is applied, obviously. So that is why this output also will be available after t greater than equals to t naught. Now at t equals to 0, in this case t is equal to 0 means at these positions. So at this position your this factor is equals to 1, and that is why output is equals to 0. And as time elapses, your output is slowly approaching to the maximum value of the input, and finally it reaches the steady state which is equals to 1. But you can see from here that output is not reaching the steady state value instantaneously along with the input. The output is a bit sluggish one, and that sluggishness is appearing due to this e to the power factor, where uh, the time delay depends upon this omega h. So what is omega h? In frequency domain we have seen omega h is the cutoff frequency when I have compared this response with respect to the frequency domain. So if omega h is large, then the time it will take to reach the steady state will be shorter one. So for larger omega h, you will take faster response. You will have faster response. But for smaller omega h, you will have slower response. Therefore, we can conclude that the wider bandwidth results in faster response, whereas the uh, shorter bandwidth results in the longer response. In addition to this, you can see from here that output, although it is taking some time to reach the steady state, it is reaching the steady state very smoothly. So there is no any other noisy term is appearing in this single pole response. But when we will see in the case of double pole response, we will see that depending upon a few factors, we may not have such kind of smoothie response for the double pole case as well as for the higher order pole case. However, with this understanding of the stable and unstable system as well as along with the step response of a single pole system, in my next lecture I will demonstrate you the step response of a double pole system, and that is the origin of the oscillation. And from the understanding of the step response of a double pole system, I will conclude how we can employ the positive feedback in order to achieve the sustainable oscillation by employing or by maintaining the Bark-Hessian criteria.